able to see the screen? In the previous session, we have discussed about the what is .NET Core, why .NET Core, some history about the .NET Core, comparison of .NET Core with the .NET frameworks, advantages of .NET Core, disadvantages of .NET Core, features of .NET Core, setting up the local environment using the tools like Visual Studio, and also setting up the local environment with .NET CLI commands. And also we had some brief introduction about the application structure in the .NET Core. And we have some discussion over various JSON files available in .NET Core and the Q&A sessions. And their recording, if someone missed that first part, you can go and watch that video so that all were in the same page. Okay, so for our this is second event session. The agenda is, so first we will start with the .NET ecosystem. What is .NET ecosystem? CLI languages that .NET support, that is ASP.NET Core supports, the Nuget packages, .NET Vision we will discuss, difference between .NET Core and ASP.NET Core, .NET standards, some brief introduction. We will discuss more in later sessions. .NET SDK we will discuss, some more about .NET CLIs and their commands, .NET Core templates, there are some real examples, .csproj files and the solution file, .NET Core versions we will compare, like how their history come up and their various features come up in that we will compare. Visual Studio live share demo we will discuss. We will explore more Program.cs file structure, Kestrel server that I discussed in the previous session, that ASP.NET Core has their own web server, that is Kestrel server, which is very important to understand. Their hosting and hosting types, .NET Core life cycles, middleware in .NET Core, which is the heart of .NET Core, middleware, very important topic, extension methods, and then we will cover the Q&A sessions. So first, I have created this PPT for the brief introduction and the visualization only. Okay, for more introduction, for more, if you want to learn more, then you can go with the document. I have put more details in the document. You can go through that part. All these topics I have covered in the document. So first we will start with the .NET ecosystem, CLI languages and Nuget packages. What is ecosystem? .NET ecosystem. .NET ecosystem is basically a composition of languages. Okay, our .NET Core supports many languages: C#, H#, VB, others. Also, the ecosystem is a combination of runtime CLRs, libraries like BCL, base class libraries, built-in ton of functions in Nuget. So basically, .NET ecosystem is a combination of everything. It is a complete package. It is everything in the .NET. CLR, all you know, you have started with the CLR. This is the main execution of the .NET programs, how you can, means how we will execute the programs by using CLRs, common language runtime. Languages, .NET supports these languages, others as well. Nuget packages, it's a marketplace where all the packages, all the libraries are included. You can go through this link and see all the packages available. Also in the Visual Studio, right click on that part, just I will show you. This is some example of the project. If you go right click, manage Nuget package. Here you can install any of package that you want. So these are the Nuget packages. If you want to explore it more, then you can go this website and explore it. Next, come up with the .NET Vision. .NET Vision, I will tell you some interesting history about the .NET, how .NET come up with the .NET Core and it will become a cross-platform, right? Previously, .NET is running on the Windows only, right? So how it will now it will run on the Linux as well, Windows as well, Mac OS as well. How it is? So this is the very here you can see this image, very interesting image. In this here you can see a .NET framework, .NET Core, Xamarin. Okay. In the previous .NET framework, we can develop ASP.NET applications, WPF, Windows Forms, right? On top of base class library. .NET framework has the base class library. What is base class library? It is a common utility class library, common type system used by the .NET framework, right? Basically क्या है कि पुराना जब हमारा .NET था उसके अंदर बेस्ड लाइब्रेरीज हम यूज करते थे, उसके अंदर सब चीज थी। मतलब हमारे को कोई भी ASP.NET प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाना है, विंडोज प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाना है, WPF प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाना है, तो बेस क्लास लाइब्रेरी में जितनी भी कॉमन यूटिलिटीज होती थी सब इसके अंदर थी अवेलेबल। बट इसका क्या था, ये सिर्फ विंडोज पे चलता था। Now come up with the Xamarin. Xamarin is a new client. It come up with the new idea, and he created a mono class library. He used that library, base class library, he used that library and reinvent that library into the mono class and named as mono class library. That is compatible. Means the main idea is of the Xamarin to make it a .NET Core as cross platform that can run on different operating systems. So mono class library created by the Xamarin, which is a can be run, which is cross platform independent for Linux as well. But after that, Microsoft .NET is a component, is a product of Microsoft. Microsoft acquired the Xamarin and use their idea for making the .NET cross platform with more advancement. मतलब इसने क्या किया, Xamarin का इसने आइडिया एक्वायर किया और उसने अपनी खुद की इसने एक नई लाइब्रेरी बना दी, .NET कोर लाइब्रेरी, प्योर .NET कोर लाइब्रेरी बना दी, उसके अंदर और फीचर्स डाल दिए। जो इसने Xamarin ने क्या किया, इसने सिर्फ मोबाइल्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से सोचा, एंड्रॉइड एप्स के लिए, iOS के लिए इसने क्या कर दिया, यूनिवर्सल एप्स बना दी। यूनिवर्सल एप्स मीन्स you can create console apps, web apps, WPF apps, IoT apps, AI apps, machine learnings, right? कुछ भी आप बना सकते हो। उसने बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सल एप्स का फीचर दिया और ये क्या करते हैं, हर साल इन द मंथ ऑफ नवंबर एक नया वर्जन रिलीज करते हैं .NET का। So this is some .NET vision about the .NET framework, .NET Core and Xamarin, which is very important to understand. Anyone have any question? Okay. So moving to our next slide. Comparison of .NET Core with ASP.NET Core. Now we all know we are learning .NET Core. What is the ASP.NET Core? All are same, right? This is .NET Core and ASP.NET Core. There is only a very small difference between them. .NET Core is a pure .NET Core library that we discussed in this. This is .NET Core library. It's a pure core library that will be used by the ASP.NET. Both are open source and cross-platform. ASP.NET Core works on top of the .NET Core library for developing apps by using their packages and projects. So basically, .NET Core library is a common utility where you can develop a cross-platform applications. And ASP.NET works on the top of .NET Core library. Like suppose you have to use the entity framework. Okay, in your web applications, you need to install the Nuget package, Microsoft.ASP.NET Core. It comes with the ASP. That is a bit difference. Also, .NET, which is very important to understand these things. In the interviewer asks these questions: what is the basic difference between them? .NET Core is a runtime to execute application built on it. ASP.NET is a web framework to build web apps, IoT apps, mobile backends on the top of .NET Core or .NET Framework. .NET Core 3.1 is latest version. There is no separate versioning for ASP.NET Core. It is the same as ASP.NET Core versions. So these are the some comparisons between the .NET Core and the ASP.NET Core. So I'm moving to the next slide. Here we have used the term .NET Standard. What the .NET Standard is? Sometimes it will also ask this. Interviewer also ask this question in the interviews. What is .NET Standard? It is a very rich concept of .NET. If I can show you, like suppose I am creating a new project, class library. I'm searching for class library. Here you can see we have different type of class libraries. Here you can see a .NET Standard in the two versions, C#, Visual Basic, and here you can see .NET Core as well, which we commonly use in the while we are creating the .NET applications, .NET Core applications. .NET Standard is very different. That I will give you some glimpse of .NET Standards. We will discuss more in our later sessions. So .NET Standard is basically a class library, pure class library of .NET Core. Most of the libraries of .NET Core is built in .NET Core. Suppose we have two applications. Just imagine we don't have .NET Core right now, and we have an application in .NET frameworks. Okay, and now .NET Core is introduced, and we have created one more application, one more architecture in the .NET Core. Now we want to migrate a .NET Framework application into the .NET Core application. Right? One component is created in the .NET Framework application, and one component is created in the .NET Core application. Now I want to migrate one by one into the .NET Core application. Then we will introduce as a mediator class, as a class library, is a .NET Standard, and we will create a logics in the .NET Standard. So by this we can migrate it easily. So this is just a glimpse of .NET Standard. We will explore it more in a later session. So moving to our next slide. .NET SDK. So in the previous session, we have a question regarding if Visual Studio is not installed in our system, then how we will use the .NET CLI commands. Like in the command CMD, we are writing .NET Wrap commands, .NET Build commands, .NET Restore commands. Then how we will use? It comes with the concept of .NET SDK, Software Development Kit. Basically what it is, Software Development Kit means it contains the documentation, header files, libraries, and all the tools required to develop an application for Microsoft Windows and .NET frameworks. Basically, it is an entry point in .NET Core 2.0. In the previous .NET Core 1.0, previously we have, for using the .NET Core, we have to install Visual Studio 2015, and also we have to install .NET Runtime as well as .NET SDK in order to run .NET Core applications. But later on, from version 2.0, .NET Core 2.0, Microsoft merged the runtime environment in SDK. That means we only have to install the SDK now. Okay, it's a complete package. Means runtime environment is also involved in the SDK. Now only SDK required to install to use the .NET. Runtime environment is basically where we run our application. Without this, we cannot. Any question? You can visit this site, and here you can download the .NET SDK versions. Here you can see the version .NET 5.0. Currently their status is in preview mode. Preview mode means it will be introduced in the month of November in 2020, but it is currently in preview mode. Only you can view that part, .NET 5.0. .NET Core 3.1 is current version, and it has long-term supports. .NET Core 3.1, their end of life, their support is finished. Similarly, .NET Core 2.1 has also the long-term support. You can install the SDK according to your machine processor, like 64-bit, 86-bit. You can install. Like suppose you are creating an application on the .NET Core 3.1, you can install this one based on your processor bit. Okay. So if you don't have any Visual Studio in your system, then you can install this thing only. Just visit this site and install this SDK. Then you will be able to run the commands. So this is all about .NET SDK. Any question, guys? Okay. So moving to next slide. .NET CLI and commands that we have discussed in a previous session. I have put this because I want to explain the .NET SDK. So .NET CLI, you can now run the .NET CLI commands in your CMD and create your application. Any of application, Windows, web, any of. So it's a command line interface. It's a cross-platform tool chain for developing, building, running, and publishing .NET Core applications. The .NET Core CLI is included with the .NET Core SDK. For using CLI, you have to install SDK. Moving to next. .NET Core templates and some real examples. So come up with the .NET Core templates. Basically, .NET Core templates. With the .NET Core application, .NET Core you have installed it, and with the .NET Core application, you are able to install any of desktop application like console application, WPF application. With the web, you can create any of ASP.NET application, MVC application, ASP.NET Core application. You will be able to create the cloud applications like Azure functions, right? For you, you will be able to create the mobile application, Xamarin, gaming application, Unity, IoT application, internet-enabled technologies. You can create Raspberry Pi. You can create AI, ML.NET, which is now being introduced in our latest versions. So in the first page here you can see you will be able to create a new project base. You can select the all. Here you can see the all project types. You can select, or even you can search it in the search box, the project you want to create. So these are the core templates. That means you can create any of application that you want with the .NET Core. So it has a very rich features. Uh, Now comparing with the csproj file and the solution file, many of us are confused with these extensions, like what are these? And someone asked me what are these and is are same. So this is a very common question to ask. What is csproj file and the solution file? csproj file, their full form is Common MS Build Project, and solution is a name as suggests, solution file. So basically, when you will create any of project, when you select the project, it will automatically create a csproj file for that project. That is csproj file. And suppose you have multiple projects in the solution, in the root folder, you have multiple projects, and in the multiple projects there is a one solution file, that is just here you can see ecard.sln. This is the solution file. I will show you more. Like suppose this is the application and this is the root folder, right? In the root folder src, I have lot of applications: basket, catalog, order, and this is the application. Here you can see this is the csproj file. In every project you can see the csproj file, but not the solution file. Solution file is only one, which can have multiple projects. That is the one or multiple projects. That is the solution file. Okay, so moving to next slide. Comparing .NET Core versions. Currently in the market, we have introduced, Microsoft has introduced 1.x versions, 2.x versions, 3.x versions, which is the latest one. So in the 1.x versions, first we have used in the 2015, and here that was xproj file. Now in the 2017, they have replaced it with the csproj file. They have MS Build works again. They have tooling enhancements in the 1.x versions. In the 2.x versions, they have used the .NET standards that I have explained it before, and also the ability to reference full framework libraries, expanded OS supports. They have introduced the Razor pages, Visual Basic for .NET Core is here. Means in the .NET Core 2.x versions, we can create our application in the VB as well. In .NET Core 3.x versions, there are long-term supports. We can create Windows forms as well, like WPF. Previously in the .NET Core 2.x, we cannot create the WPF applications. But with the .NET Core 3.x versions, we can create WPF applications as well. They have the improvement of language improvement, C# 8.0 features, default executables, single file executables, ready to run images, new global.json files. Okay. So now come up with the Visual Studio Live Share demo that we missed in our previous session. So just am closing all the windows and opening only one window for show you. I'm just clicking here, Live Share, which is available in the Visual Studio 2019 only. Now sharing start. If you want to share your screen, your live screen to the remote developer, like I have started sharing and I'm sharing the link, copy link. I hope you have installed the 2019 in your systems. And I'm stop sharing, and the chat window, I'm sharing this link to Vineet. I've shared it everyone. Vineet, now you can share your screen. Vineet, if you are saying something, you are on mute.
Yes, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, provided the access. Now you can share your screen. Here you can
Yes,
see he has posted the URL in the browser, and it gives a pop-up screen. Here it's open Microsoft Visual Studio 2019, right? Now he will click on this link, and it will open the Visual Studio. What happened, Vinny?
connecting to remote server.
I think you have not shared the full screen. I think your net is slow. When it will be open, let me know.
Mhm.
You can stop your share. Till then, I'm going to next slide. Then we will continue. Okay. So come up with the program.cs file. Till then, as I told you, program.cs file. It's a main entry point of the .NET Core application. So it's a main file available in all templates. If you all templates means when if you will create a web application, console application, or any of application, program.cs file is a common file which is available in all the templates. In the program.cs file, here you can see there is a public static void create host builder dot build dot run. It has a meaning in it, means it will start whenever any HTTP request come to the main method, this entry point. It will start building the project, it will run it, and it will start creating a web host for it. So Create host builder is a creation of web host. They will use the iHost builder interface. And in this, there is a create default builder which has their own uh, now ready. Okay, just give me a minute, Vinny. Uh, in the create default builder, I will explain you more with the document. Here you can see Program.cs file. So it created configured build using the create default builder method in the main method Program.cs file. The main purpose of the Program.cs file is to configure the application infrastructure. It will start creating the web host at the startup. It then configure the logging, dependency injection, containers, configuration systems, Kestrel web server, IIS integration. It also adds the framework services to the DI container so that we can use it. Now web host, whenever any request come, it will start the app and on run it. That is the web host. And here you can see this is the image where whenever any request come, it will build it, it will run it, and it will start creating a host. In this, there is a create web host builder, creates the host and provide the configuration to it. The build method provided the configuration, the run method runs it and listens the HTTP request. In the create web host builder, there is a create default builder. Create default builder, basically what it will do, it will first load all the directories, all the current roots that is available, that is src folder. This is a current root, it will load it. Also it will load the app settings.json file, which is the configuration file. This one, it will load initially. Also the secrets, application secrets, environment variables, command line arguments, logging enable, setting up dependency injection. As I told you, .NET Core has their inbuilt logging features, their inbuilt dependency injection. They have their inbuilt IOC containers. So we will set up in this program.cs file. If I click on it, create web host builder, this one. This is the static file, create default builder. This is the host one under the host class. You can add framework services to the DI containers, integrate the Kestrel servers with IIS. You can see the more look into it. In the create default builder, there is a where builder equals to new web host builder. You can create the directories, content root folders. You can configure the configurations. You can setting up the JSON files like appsetting.json. You can add assemblies, environment variables. You can add configure logging. You can configure the logging and also set up the Kestrel server. So this is the internal working that I'm talking about. Enable logging, set up the DI containers, setting up the Kestrel server, use IIS or integration. So this is all about the program.cs file. Then after all the configurations, they will set up the logging, configurations, environment variables, content root directory, logging, etc. Then it will start creating the using after all the setup, they will use the Startup.cs file. If I click on this, here we have two main methods, configure services and the configure. Configure services is to register the application, register our classes, interfaces in the IOC container, in the DI container. We will use the configure services method that will work on the iService collection. Next method is the configure method that uses the iApplication Builder interface, which is used for handling the HTTP request and response, that is middleware. So this is all about the program.cs file. Now moving before to next topic, we will start the demo on live share. I'm stopping my share. Vinit, you can share your screen now.
Yes. Now
And
it is
open
finished.
yeah. Here you can see all the things that I have. He has access now. Can you please open ecard.services.catalog.api? Yeah, first one. Yes, first one. Yes, just click it and open the program.cs file. Program.cs file. Yes. Yeah. Okay, and from my end, I am just typing in my program.cs file. Uh, Here you can see I have changed in my code, and now Vinit is able to see that I am typing. Also, my name is here. So if I change anything, now he will be able to access these things, and I can also see them. So this is the feature of live share. Vinit, now you can stop your share. Thank you. Now to moving to our next topic, that is Kestrel server and some other options. ASP.NET Core provides basically three options: IIS server, web listeners, and the Kestrel server that we can use as a internal server and the external server. So what basically Kestrel server is, that is provided by the .NET Core. Kestrel server is a web server. By this, our .NET Core is a cross-platform. Kestrel server is a server. By this, our .NET Core is a cross-platform. That means we can run our application in Windows, Linux, and Mac OS as well. And it will manage the HTTP server-based requests. Kestrel can be used by itself as an H server. The process used to host the app is .NET.exe. It is an open source, event-driven, asynchronous input-output based server used to host ASP.NET application on any platform. It's a listening server and a command line interface. It is based on the libvirt library, the same that we use in the node.js. Okay. In the node.js, we also use this same library that is used by the Kestrel server. It allows the ASP.NET Core application run on any OS other than Windows. It makes the .NET Core as cross-platform. Kestrel can be used in combination with a reverse proxy with two web servers. Here you can see that how we will configure the Kestrel server in a create web host builder, and here you can see the diagram. This is the internet and I'm passing the HTTP request. So Kestrel server is using internally a reverse proxy server. Okay, Kestrel server internally using the reverse proxy server. That is, internally they are using the IIS server or Nginx server or Apache server. Whenever any request come, first it will go to the IIS server, then it will move to the Kestrel server, that is reverse proxy server. So Kestrel is using a combination as a reverse proxy with two web servers. So this is basic about Kestrel server. You can go through the document for more details. Moving to our next thing, that is hosting. In our .NET Core application, we can host our application in two types: in process and out of process. In process, basically, that I told you, .NET Core application uses three types. We can host the application in they using the servers like IIS, Kestrel server, and the web server, WebListener. So in process is basically whenever any request comes, it uses the IIS server that we connect with the W3 WP.exe files to attach the process. So internally they use the IIS server. An out of process server is basically of two types: internal and external web servers. Kestrel is an internal web server and the external server is a IIS, Nginx or Apache that Kestrel server used as a reverse proxy. So basically, in process is the default hosting model in ASP.NET Core. If we don't change this, then the default they will use the IIS server, and we can change. Just right click on the edit Proj.cs file. If I go in our application and right click and edit the project file, here you can add the item group and add the hosting model according to their need. Like you want to access the IIS server, IIS is default, so no need to add this property. If you want to use the out of process, then you need to add the property. So this is all about hosting and their types in .NET Core. Basically, out of process uses the Kestrel server internally, and the in process uses the IIS server. Now come up with the .NET Core lifecycle. So here you can see in the lifecycle, first application starts. Whenever any requests come from the browser, first the application starts and it goes to the program.cs file, their main method. Then from the main method, it will start creating a host, web host, and do some configurations in it and call the startup.cs file. In the startup.cs file, we have two methods: configure services method and the configure method. Configure service method, it will register all the dependencies in the DI container, in the IOC container, and in the configure, it will using the middleware that I will explain you a bit in a minute. Then it will start creating a build middleware and using the static files, routing it. Then it will move to the controller factory. In the controller factory, it will create a controller instance that we want. Then it will start, after calling the controller, it will start model binding, calling the action filterings, executions, then action result. Then it result will send the same as MVC lifecycle. Then view result, then the response come. So main difference here, these things. the middleware and the startup.cs file and the program.cs file. These are the three main changes. So this is all about .NET Core lifecycle. It is just similar as MVC, only the difference is program.cs, startup.cs and the middleware. Now moving to next, middleware in .NET Core. Okay, which is a very important topic in .NET Core that you need to understand. Middleware. Previously in our ASP.NET applications, in our previous tradition applications, we have HTTP modules and the handlers that we use to handle the request and response from the web browser. But in the .NET Core application, they have removed the HTTP uh, modules and the handlers. They have introduced the new concept as middleware in .NET Core. Whenever any requests come, it will first go to the program.cs file, then call the startup.cs file. Here you can see, first it will go to the program.cs file, then it will call the startup.cs file, then it will go to the configure method. This is the main method for the middleware, adding it into the middleware. Middleware means request response pipeline. So it come up with the iApplication builder. They uses the iApplication builder extension method interfaces to configure the middleware. They uses mainly three extension methods, that is app.use, this interface, app.use, app.use, app.map, okay, and app.run. App.use basically, right, suppose here I want to use the MVC, like here you can see app.use routing, app.use authorization. I want to configure the routing here, app.use routing. I want to use the authorization here, app.use authorization. I want to use the static files, app.use static files. What are these static files? This is also a middleware. App.use static files. Without this, without configuring this, we cannot access our content folder. Content folder means our static files. Like suppose if I create, that I told you in a previous session, that is www root folder. Here we will collect all our static files like JS files, CSS files, images. We can put and also use in our application, but we cannot access if we are not configuring it into the middleware. So for using it, we have to configure it into the middleware, that is app.use static files. Next, so first, whenever any request come, it will go to the program.cs file, call the Kestrel web server, call the startup.cs file, then it will call the configure method, then we'll start calling the app.use class for configuring the middlewares. Then they will use it should be it into the same order, right? Then it will move to the next middleware. Next middleware means if we want to use the app.map. Map is basically used for routing purposes. We want to route, we want to configure our routings. Then we will use a termination point. Termination point is app.run. App.run is a termination of the middleware. So ordering is very important in middleware. We cannot write app.run before the app.use. If we use app.run before this, then it will terminate. It will not call this one. So make sure app.run is the last point to call, because it's a termination of middleware. So these are the 3 points which need to cover in the configure method: app.use, app.map, app.run. Their ordering must be in the same. They use the invoke method to calling to the next delegate. Suppose my request come and it now the request is at this point, app dot app.use routing. Then for moving it to this, they using the next delegate. They invoke the method, they will move to the next delegate. That is, they will call the next middleware, then this middleware, then this middleware. And then we have configured more than we can. Then after, when it will reach to this point, it will terminate the. So ordering of the middleware is very important. So these are the inbuilt middlewares like this one, app.use static files. We can create our own middlewares as well, own custom middlewares as well. Like suppose we want to implement a global exception handling, our own logging system in the application, then we can create our own middlewares. Just right click on the project, click on add, new item, search for middleware. Also, if you want to write your own code, then you don't need to select this one. Just create a class and write your code. It will give you a template in this. If you create this one, add, it will give you a code. So basically, here you can create your own code and use it in your application. So by this, you can also create your own custom middlewares. So anyone have any doubt? Because this is a very important topic to understand. So guys, I'm assuming you don't have any doubts, right? Okay. So I'm moving to our next point, extension methods. Hope you all know about the extension methods. Extension methods is basically like suppose we have developed our application, we have developed our calculator program. Okay. So some standard says that don't add or modify the methods because it will break the previous functionality. So we have come up with the new concept, that is extension methods. What extension methods will do? Extension methods, like without disturbing our creation, our previous method creation, add a new method, add a new class, a static class, and by using this method, this keyword, you can extend the class. Extension method enable to add method to existing types without creating a new derived types, recompiling or otherwise modifying the original type. Extension methods are static methods, but they are called as if they were instance methods on an extended types. So in the middleware, as I told you, here you can see these are all extension methods that we can extend it. We can create our own extension methods. These are inbuilts of this application builder. So this is the brief about extension methods. I also missed one more thing about this class. As I told you, configure services they are using the service collection to register the uh, services, to add the services to the DI container. What basically It has three types. This services has three types. By this we can configure it into the container. Basically, we have services dot add singleton, like show you services dot add singleton, services dot add transient, services dot add scope. These three methods used to register the services into the DI container, but they have some bit difference in, like, based on the scenario we will use these concepts. Add singleton, basically what it will do, it will create a single object. Like suppose I have a request and request come to the controller. Okay, request come to the controller, and controller, that one controller, that X controller pass that request to the another controller, that is Y. So when the request come and it calls the controller, it create a unique GOID, unique object. Okay, that unique object will go to the next Y controller with the same unique ID, same controller. So that means from the whole request response, we have a same unique object, that is add singleton. But the scenario is, if even if any other request come, then it will use the same object, that is add singleton. What add transient is, when any request come and go to the controller, it will create a unique object. But when that controller redirect to another controller, that is Y, it will refresh the object. It will create a next unique fresh object, that is add transient. Okay, add scoped. Add scoped is basically within the scope. Basically, whenever any request come, calling the controller and creating a single object, unique object, and that unique object redirect to the another controller. Okay, but it is same as add singleton, but the difference is, whenever any other request come, okay, whenever any other request come, it will again change the object. So conclusion part is, add singleton is, it will it will create a unique object, single object within the whole life cycle. Any of requests come, any number of requests come, object remains the same. Add transient, it will change the object whenever we redirect to the another controller, that is add transient. Add scoped is, when the request come and redirect to the another controller, the object is same, that is within the scope, but when another request comes, it will create another object, that is add scoped. So their understanding is very important. So guys, any question in this? बहुत पूछा जाता है इंटरव्यूज में. Startup.cs फाइल का एक एक चीज आपको पता होना चाहिए, इसके मीनिंग्स आपको पता होना चाहिए. Program.cs का इनको यूज करने से पहले, क्योंकि सारा हम इसी पे काम करेंगे, कैसे इसको काम करना है, तो इसको समझना पहले बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Okay. So this is all about our session. Next, for our upcoming session, repository design pattern with demo. We will create a new project with the repository design pattern. Also, we will understand about the routings in .NET Core with their types, and also we will create some routings in it and do some examples. We will understand the dependency injection, their types, and do some demo on it. Constructors, their types, and demo on it. We will establish a SQL connection, and also we will use the SSDT entity framework. We will use their approaches like code first, model first approach. We will demo that part. Feeding data into the database, we will understand the async await concepts, HTTP verbs, REST APIs creation. We will explore the Postman tools for API testing. We will explore the .NET Core network tab for API testing. Fiddler tool we will explore. We will create complex models, how we will create model into it, मॉडल के अंदर मॉडल बनाना कैसे बनाते हैं. And also we will export the poco generator tool. We will integrate the swagger implementation for the API documentation and testing the multiple APIs in a list. So that we will explore in our next session. So guys, any queries? Also, one more thing I want to tell you before wind up these things. I have created, as I told you from the beginning of the course, from this training session, I have created a SRS, software requirement specification. Guys, I will break you into the groups and pass you this requirement to create, so that you will be more aware about this application, how you will create the application into the .NET Core. So just start creating. I have created some exercises for you. So start creating the, I will give you a console app creation, this functionality to one group, and this another functionality for creating a web app to another group. स्कोप डी ट्रांजिएंट सिंगलटन में यूज क्या करना चाहिए एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड ऑन सिनेरियो माइनूट, जैसा आपका सिनेरियो है. बेसिकली हमारे को सिंगलटन यूज करना चाहिए क्योंकि वो सिंगल ऑब्जेक्ट बनाता है. ठीक है, बाकी बेस्ड ऑन कि आपका सिनेरियो क्या है उसके अकॉर्डिंग हम यूज करेंगे. और कोई क्वेश्चंस? और किसी के पास गाइस एनी क्वेश्चन? ओके, so thank you all for joining this session.